Hello and welcome again back to the channel. This is Manish Jain, also known as Mr. Jain. Today is a great episode I'm really excited to talk about. It's been something that I've been kind of tracking for many years, and that's the cars of the Ambani family. Today, I decided to do it because this past week I got a chance to actually see one of their cars, supercars, and I was able to actually take a video of it. It was the Lamborghini Avendator Roadster S. I've seen many of their cars, but this is the first time I got to see one of the super high-end cars. And the reason for this video is not link bait. If you've ever tried to do a search on YouTube for Ambani cars, you'll see stuff like this. You know, where they show a picture of a Bugatti Veyron or 19 Phantoms. And it's not that Mukesh Ambani and family cannot afford those cars. They definitely can. It's just that they don't own them. And I'm guessing maybe they will in the future, but right now they don't have them. And so the idea of this video was to kind of break down the cars that I've seen and talking to the informal car network that is available in Bombay through friends and family of what cars they actually have. So this is definitely not link bait. This is not going to be like, ye dekho Mukesh Ambani ka 1000 gaadiyon hai, isne 1000 crore spend kiya. None of that stuff. In fact, I don't think I'm going to talk about any of the pricing of the cars. And this is not even a comprehensive look at the cars. I'm only looking at a small snapshot of the cars that I've seen and some of the ones that I'm interested in and have been verified by people that I know. So I would say of all the cars that he has, this is a very small subset, and we're talking about probably 30 to 32 cars that I have been tracking for a long time. And of that, we're only going to talk about half of them. And the question people may have is, who the hell are you, Manish, and why do you think you know so much? The answer is, I don't know so much. It's just that I tend to run along Altamont Road a lot, and I happen to see the cars come and go out of Antilia. So I kind of get a chance to see what cars they have, what cars they don't have, and so that's kind of where a lot of the information comes from. So before we get started, as I mentioned, this is not a comprehensive look at all the cars, so don't get in the comments and say, oh my god, you forgot about his GLS, you forgot about this S350 or this S400. There are probably a ton of cars that I'm missing, but these are the ones that like I said, that I know about. So about 80% of the content that you see in this video is pictures or videos taken by me personally. Then there are four other sources of information. The next source is anonymous pictures. People have sent me some anonymous pictures, mainly from the Antilia garage of where Mukesh Ambani stays. And those were sent to me anonymously, like I said. And there are 3 other people that have given me a lot of information, and they're part of the informal car network that I talk about. The first one is a guy named Ketan, and I'll link to his Instagram. So Ketan was the one that sent me pictures of the Lamborghini Aventador Roadster S and then also the Urus. So in fact, the Roadster S no one has seen. I happened to see it, like I said, this week, so I was actually kind of surprised. So Ketan kind of sent that information, pictures to me. The second person that has sent a picture to me, or actually requested it of him, is his name is Clinton, and he is like a car person like no other. He knows everything about the cars. And he actually sent me the picture of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Again, a car that's been not seen very often, definitely part of the Ambani fleet, but he sent me a really good high-res picture, and we'll talk about that later. The third person his name is Vedant, and this guy is like the Wikipedia of cars. You ask him, he'll probably tell you, what specs are on the car. He may even be able to tell you the last time the car had an oil change. So these 3 people collectively have kind of helped me out with the video. And more from a fact-checking perspective. Vedant is the guy that I always go to for fact-checking. There are times where I'll put up pictures on Instagram and say this is an SVR. He'll come back and say, dude, that's not an SVR. That's a fake SVR. This is really what it is. So he is like the human version of Wikipedia for cars in Bombay. So let me be very clear. The cars that I'm going to be talking about today are the cars of Mukesh Ambani and family. Anil Ambani has, I'm sure, a fleet of vehicles as well. The thing is, I just don't see them. I get to see Mukesh Ambani's cars quite a bit because, like I said, I have a morning routine that involves me jogging in front of his house on Altamont Road. And also my office happens to be literally 100 to 200 meters away in Nariman Point. So I get to see a lot of his cars parked in Maker 4. So that's the reason why I've got access to a lot of the pictures, is because I take them myself and I see them. So I can actually verify that, yes, this is an S600 that he owns, because I see it all the time. You can kind of put the pieces together when you see the same plate number at Antilia, at Maker 4, and it's registered to Reliance. Doesn't take a genius to figure out that it's probably most likely Mukesh Ambani's car. So let's get into it very quickly. But before I get into it, let's just talk about the high level stats that I have. Like I said, of all the cars we're going to talk about, there's probably only 30 that I actually have information on. Real quick, out of the 30, 11 of them are Mercedes-Benzes. One of the things you'll quickly realize is Mukesh Ambani has a love affair with Mercedes. So a lot of the cars, the earlier cars that he has, are all Mercedes-Benzes, and the more recent purchases, probably driven by his kids, they're definitely not Mercedes. So I'm assuming that Mukesh Ambani probably has this love affair from, apparently his dad also, Dhirubhai Ambani, had a love affair for Mercedes-Benzes. So he's got a bunch of them. In fact, he's got 3 S600s, which are the V12 versions of the S-Class Benzes. He also has 2 G63s. Funny thing is, I've never really seen those driven around. I've never seen them ever parked in Maker 4, so I'm assuming that's not something that he drives in. He's got the old version called the 463 platform, and then he's also got one of the newer ones called the W463 platform. Take it to the Germans to have some crazy numbering system. Okay, so I've rambled enough. Now let's get into the cars. So the first car I want to talk about is actually not even something that I was expecting to talk about, but this is a Cadillac Fleetwood coming out of Antilia. And a friend of mine tells me that this was actually a car that used to be owned, or probably still owned, actually is owned by the Ambani family. It's a Dhirubhai's car. So he, not only does he love Mercedes-Benzes, but apparently he liked this American classic car. I shouldn't say classic, it's probably a late 1980s Cadillac Fleetwood. So this is one of the first pictures I've taken of a car coming out of Antilia, and it was actually a great shot, kind of completely unexpected. And in fact, I didn't know whose car it was until a friend told me, hey, that actually was a car that he used to see, my friend who used to see in Cuthbert, because he used to live right across from Seawind, which was the house that Mukesh Ambani used to live in with Dhirubhai Ambani before he moved to Antilia. So now let's get to one of the first cars that I know about. And the way I structured this presentation was, I wasn't really sure how to, talk about all the different cars. So I did it based on when the cars were registered. So the very first picture you're seeing here is one of the first cars that I've seen registered. And this is a Bentley Flying Spur. And again, this is an anonymous picture sent to me. As you can see, it's a garage shot, and this is a shot in the Antilia garage. And this is a car I've never actually seen out on the road. And one of the sad things is you'll come to see from this presentation is there's a ton of cars that are just amazing that honestly never get driven. They kind of sit in the garage, and it's an unfortunate situation, but hey, I guess when you get that kind of dough, the cars take a back seat, and it's probably more fun to be taking, the jet to another country versus taking your car down to Marine Drive. You do the math. Second one that we're going to talk about is the first of many S600s. This is the S600. This is on Pedder Road. He's got 3 of them, like I mentioned. And one of the dead giveaways is, if you don't look at the badge, is you can see that it's got 4 exhaust tips. Actually, it's a split pipe, but it's actually got an insert in both of them. So it looks like it's got 4 quad tips when I think it's only just dual exhaust. But the real dead giveaway is when you look at the tires from the back, the profile is really fat and wide, and it looks amazing. Next up is another S600. This one is actually parked in Maker 4. And as you can see, same kind of profile, quad exhaust. You can't see the tires, but they are massive and fat. Another shot of the same S600, and this is, I think this was when I was on on the Sea-Link. And a shot of one of many Benzes you're going to see. This is an S500 part, again, in Maker 4. There's a ton of these. You go to Maker 4, and if Mukesh Ambani is in town, there is just a ton of them. And I'm assuming it's all his staff, people, family. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of them. When he's in town, because that entire half the parking lot on the right side of the building is nothing but security vehicles and S-Class Benzes. Yet another shot of a S-Class Benz. Funny thing is all the Benzes that he have are the older version. He doesn't have any of the newer ones, which is kind of surprising. Yet another Benz, actually a couple Benzes together. Like I said, this is going to get very repetitive. After a while, you're probably going to want to just tell me to fast forward through all the Benzes. This is a shot of the third S600, yet again parked in Maker 4, and this is actually in the spot when Mukesh is in town, because that is his spot reserved just for his car, and usually there's a whole fleet of security detail cars, and we'll get to those security cars later on in the presentation. This is one of the first BMWs I've ever seen from Mukesh that he's actually bought. This is a 7 Series, and if you Google it, you'll see that this is the bulletproof version of the 7 Series BMW, which is probably the reason why he has it. These were taken somewhere in Breach Candy. This, of course, is again in Maker 4. Like I said, you'll see a constant theme with me in Maker 4. I think the security guys know who I am by now. Another BMW, this is obviously the i8, and this picture was taken in the garage. Again, an anonymous picture sent to me. So this is one of the first sports cars I've seen the family buy, and I'm sure they must have gotten a package deal with the bulletproof car and this one as well. Looks really nice. Again, a car that I've not seen out on the road, but definitely a looker. And also kind of odd that somebody that runs the largest petroleum refinery in the world happens to have an electric vehicle. Now we're going to get to some of the more exciting cars, at least for me. If you love Mercedes, you would have loved the first half of this. But now we're going to get into the cars that I feel are probably driven by the fact that the kids wanted to get some really cool cars. And this is one of the first ones. This is the Rolls-Royce Drophead Coupe. I saw this on Pedder Road. This was when Anant Ambani was walking on the road, and they had a security detail, and this car was actually kind of following him. So this is the front shot. This is the back shot. Great car, looks amazing, got some great road presence when you see it. Next up is Bentley Bentyga in typical British racing green. This is in the garage. This is actually, I think, the V12 version of this SUV. It's one of the first Bentygas, I believe, that came into the country. Looks really nice. This is actually a video of it coming down from Carmichael Road. So you can kind of see it go by. It's got the security detail. You'll notice those security detail vehicles are Land Rover Discoveries, and I'll talk about those later on as we get through the actual cars that the Ambanis sit in versus the security detail cars. This is a Range Rover. Now, this is one of the Range Rovers that they own, and this is the ones that they actually sit in. There's a bunch of Range Rovers that the security detail guys have. This one's got some great shots. It's got a custom quad exhaust. Looks really good. Love this tinted windows. Looks really nice. I saw this probably 3-4 years ago. This is a Bentley Mulsanne. Again, this is a garage shot that somebody sent to me. Big car, looks amazing. Yet again, I've not seen this ever on the road. And when I talk to other informal car network, no one has really seen this on the road either. And as you can see from the garage shot, you can kind of see the G63 to the left and then another Range Rover to the right. Now, if you know me, I love Ferraris, and I can tell you this is a 488 GTB that literally no one has seen in Bombay. I mean, everybody I talk to, when I send this picture to people, they're almost like shocked, like, where the hell did you get this picture from? So this is, like I said, the GTB version of the 488, a Ferrari 488. Amazing car. I've not seen it ever, and I would love to see this on the road, but it's, again, they got a lot of cars and not a lot of time. Another Bentyga. This is the V8 version, and this is kind of interesting because it's got that 3M, almost like color shifting wrap on it. So it looks really funky when you see it in person. The photo really doesn't do justice, but it is pretty cool to see it in person. That somebody told me it's a 3M film wrap. Now we're gonna get to the second of their really cool supercars, and this is a McLaren. This is, I think, the McLaren 570S Spider. I saw this car probably 5-6 months ago when I was on my morning run, but I couldn't get my camera out in fast enough. So I kind of had to just observe it and look at it, and he had a security detail behind him. So I wasn't, even by the time I got the camera out, the car is basically covered, the Range Rover is basically covered the road, and I couldn't take a picture of it. But this is a picture that somebody sent me anonymously, and again, a car that most people have not seen on the streets of Bombay. And this is the video that I took this week, and this is the Roadster S Lamborghini Aventador. Really nice. And as he's driving in, I had just run by and I saw the car coming, so I kind of ran back to Antillia just so I could take a video of the car. You can actually see me in the shadows over there. And this is another picture of the car coming out. These pictures were sent to me by Ketan. So he sent me this picture and then this picture as well, a back shot of the Roadster S. This car is amazing, and it comes up to basically my hip. It is obviously, as you would expect a Lamborghini, really low to the ground. Another shot that I took, this is a Cayenne Turbo. This is the new Cayenne Turbo, the new Cayenne look. This is entering Antillia. I've got a bunch of these SUV shots in the last month or so. And we'll get to that information later on. Once you kind of see the information, it's pretty shocking that the last 6 cars they've bought have all been SUVs. And high-end SUVs. I mean, obviously high-end. I don't expect them to buy a Creta or something like that. Lamborghini Urus. Again, you can see there is a security detail in the back. Those are the Land Rover Discoveries. This car, again, people have seen it, but not as frequently as people would have loved to. But it's one of their more recent purchases. This is the Benz G63. This is the new version with the Panamericana grille. Looks really nice. This is also known as the W463 platform. Again, this is a garage shot, and I've not seen it on the roads either. This is a Range Rover Autobiography edition. This was taken outside Antillia, as you can imagine. You can see it. This is on my morning run, and looks great. They definitely have a love for British cars as of late, and they've got a ton of Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, and Range Rovers. Is a shot that was sent to me by a guy named Clinton, as I mentioned. This is the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. This apparently, I think, is the first Rolls-Royce Cullinan in India. I could be wrong. Looks nice, but depends. Do you like the Cullinan, or do you like the Urus? It's up to, some people like both. Some people like either. Looks nice, I think. Definitely looks massive from the front, but this shot is obviously only from the back. The last car that they've added to the garage, this is the latest acquisition, was made about 2 months ago, and this is a Range Rover SVR. So that's obviously the top-end version of the Range Rovers, and this is a picture of it. I've got another picture, and then I've got a video. So this is the video of the Range Rover going. So there's actually a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a total of 4 Range Rovers in that clip. 3 are part of the security detail, and 1 is the actual SVR, the high-end Range Rover. So those are all the cars that I'm going to talk about from the Mukesh Ambani family. Now the next set of like 5 or 6 pictures are some of the security detail cars that they have. They've been upgraded from Scorpios, I think they used to have, to Ford Endeavors. And the latest ones I've seen are the BMW X5s. And there's a couple of pictures here. You can see this is in front of the Oberoi Trident Hotel. Dude's got a machine gun. Obviously, they're pretty serious about security. And this is parked in Maker 4. So started out with the X5s. Then recently, I've seen them move over to the Land Rover JLR company vehicles. So they've got some that are the Range Rovers, and they've got some that are the Discoveries. So these are 3 pictures of Range Rovers. They're all different, looking at the plate number. And then there's a picture of a Land Rover Discovery. This also is parked at Maker 4. So, if you work for Mukesh Ambani in the security detail, you're doing pretty damn good, because you get to sit in a pretty kick-ass car while you're following them to wherever they got to go. Well, that's all I got for the cars. This is a real quick summary on some of the things that I was kind of surprised about after doing the research and kind of taking a look at all the information of the cars. One is they don't have any of that Nimbu Mirchi on the car for good luck. Very surprising, because most people have it on their car, but they don't. So that was kind of surprising. Second thing that kind of got me was they've got a Lamborghini, they've got a Ferrari, they've got the McLaren. but they don't have any 911, which I was really surprised. Now, I don't expect him to get a regular 911. And obviously the GT3 or the GT2 RS track focus doesn't make sense, but I was really surprised that they don't have something like a 911 Turbo S exclusive. That almost seems like that's the car to go into his garage. It's a great daily driver, amazing specs, 0 to 60 in under, I think, 3.2 seconds or something crazy insane. So kind of surprised they don't have a 911 in the garage. Also, I'm also very biased towards 911s and Ferraris, but kind of surprised they didn't have it. Of course, they've got others. They've got Cayennes, but they don't have any 911s, which was very surprising. And the last thing that I kind of thought was really interesting was when I look at the data, since I kind of like a numbers-driven person, the last 6 purchases have all been SUVs. Now, these all happened around the time that the kids were getting married. So I don't know if these are wedding gifts or I have no idea, but you've got the Cayenne Turbo, you've got the Urus, you've got the new G63, you've got the Range Rover Autobiography, you've got the Cullinan, and last but not least, you've got the Range Rover SVR. So the last 6 have been, SUVs. So kind of surprised they don't have like a GLS 63 or something like that. Or like I mentioned, I was also surprised they don't have any of the new W222s, I think that's what it's called. The platform for Mercedes-Benz. So the previous generation Mercedes, which he has a bunch of, those are the W221s, the S600s, the S500s, those are all the old platforms. But as far as any of the new ones, the W222s, he doesn't have any of them, which is really surprising. For the fact that he loves Mercedes, I thought he'd have at least a couple new ones that he drives in. I've seen a couple S400s, but I've not seen any of the new S500s, S600s, S650s, or the Maybachs. But you know what? I'm guessing he's got a lot already going on with his cars and probably doesn't need another one added to his collection of cars. So that is my summary of the Ambani cars. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I missed out on, so if you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments below. And like I said, this wasn't a way to kind of say, oh my God, he's spent all this money on cars, or he's got access to 5,000 cars. This was really based on facts that I've seen and people I've talked to in the industry, and even people within Reliance that know the Ambanis pretty well, whether these cars are theirs or they're not. So it was a way to kind of gather the real information. And because when you go to YouTube today, there's a lot of misinformation. Like I said, 99% of the clips will have, if you type in Ambani, they'll have I think it's a video from Hyderabad or Chennai where like 8 or 9 supercars are coming out of some hotel, and they all kind of say this is Mukesh Ambani's cars. And that's complete horseshit. Those are not his cars. Kind of what I've run through are his legitimate cars from a sports car's perspective, and I might have missed out on cars, but that's, at least you've got a pretty good idea of what's real and what's not. Anyways, thanks so much, and see you next time.